Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Into the Hive Mind. This is a tournament recap video. I just went to a 94-person event here in Denver, Colorado, where I am a local, and it was a 6-round GT using all the new Pariah Nexus, and I brought one of the synaptic Nexus lists that I talked about in my previous video. So if you guys have not watched that, go ahead and look at the synaptic Nexus video for Pariah Nexus that I've uploaded. I'll throw a link down in the description of this video. And yeah, I'll talk about why I like this list. But I did bring it for this tournament, so let's go ahead and go over what my list is. So my list is a synaptic nexus detachment. Reasoning I'm taking this is for fallback, shoot, and charge, in addition to having access to Armor of Contempt. So my list is really simple. It has Death Leaper because he's fantastic and goes in every detachment. The Parasite of Mortrex with the Dirge Heart has that 9-inch aura of -1 leadership. And this detachment really likes your opponent to fail Battle Shock, and then you can do Mortals. The Parasite also makes your opponent take a Battle Shock check in the beginning of the fight phase. We have the new Neuro Tyrant with 6 Zoanthropes, and of course the Neuro Tyrant has the Enhanced Flamer in this detachment, which is super good, making it a 6/2/2 Flamer. Then we have a Biovore. Biovores are still good. The Spore Mines can do movement blocking. They can stop advance and charge, which is super popular these days. And they can still do secondaries that require you to have a unit in a place, such as engage, area denial, and behind enemy lines. The Spore Mines just can't do actions anymore, but still 3 of the 18 possible secondaries, including 2 of the fixed secondaries, the Spore Mines can do from a Biovore. Then we have our pretty standard double Exocrine, double Maleceptor. This is just makes for a very strong gun line. In addition, with the 6 Zoanthropes, this allows you, especially in Synaptic Nexus, where you could use the strat to reroll 1s to hit and wound. Anything that comes towards you, you can probably blow them off the board with, double Exocrine, double Maleceptor, 6 Zoes, and a Neuro Tyrant, which is really nice. And then the core of this list, triple Norn. So I have 2 emissaries, again with the 4-up invuln. They're just super durable, sit on an objective that they've declared, and not be able to be shifted. And a Norn assimilator who honestly does the same thing, but he then can punch a T12 target if I want, such as a Canis Rex, who's very popular right now, or any land raiders that people still decide to bring. Having strength 13 AP3 melee attacks is really nice to have to be able to hurt those kind of targets. And yeah, this list is really straightforward. I have 3 Norns. It turns out there are 3 objectives in the middle of the table, and I put a Norn on each objective, and they become OC 15. And the lack of invuln almost never matters for the assimilator because we have access to Armor of Contempt. So the opponent either has to be AP4 in melee or AP5 in shooting if I'm behind cover before it even matters that I don't have an invuln. And I just really like having the 1 assimilator. I will say the differences aren't that drastic, and he is 25 points more, and this list comes out to 1990. I could definitely see just changing the assimilator to the emissary just to get those 35 points for a Pyrovore, so that way the Maleceptors can ignore cover. That would be really good. And actually the Zoanthropes ignore cover as well, with their blast weapons. All the AP2 and AP2 ignore cover are a world apart in terms of actual shooting power. So I am tempted to drop just to the 3 emissaries, not because the assimilator is bad, but because I want to fit a Pyrovore in. I think it's silly that the assimilator costs more. I think trading a 4-up invuln for a melee attack is a 1-to-1 swap, but apparently not. Anyways, that's enough about the lists. Let's get into my games. So, round 1, we started right off the bat where I am playing against Colton Titus. He is playing a Deathwatch Gladius. Deathwatch are looked at as kind of a forgotten army, reasonably so. They really Their detachment was kind of obliterated a long time ago, beginning of 10th, and they've just literally been completely ignored every detachment since, or every balanced data slate since. But Colton is bringing them anyways with a Gladius. I will say there's nothing too crazy in this list that really makes it a Deathwatch list other than 2 Deathwatch veteran squads. Otherwise, this is actually a pretty standard just Gladius force. Well, I don't know about standard, but there's nothing really special Deathwatch about it other than the 2 units. So Colton's list is a chaplain with fire discipline. This is his warlord. He actually just goes with the 10 Deathwatch veterans, giving their 4 Fragstorm cannons fire discipline, in addition to, the few bolters that they've got. And as a chaplain, gives the entire unit +1 to wound in combat. That's really good. Then he has another chaplain with Artificer armor, who also goes with 10 Deathwatch veterans. These units just hit ridiculously hard, especially because I am Xenos, so they reroll all hit rolls against Xenos. These units are actually pretty scary, and they just go in Rhinos. So 2 Rhinos filled with 10 Deathwatch veterans that have 4 Fragstorm cannons, 4 heavy Thunderhammers, and a Xenophase Blade with 2 Storm Shields, and +1 to wound from chaplains. It seems pretty good. Melee infantry going through walls, either out of transports or with jump packs to go really far, is kind of the name of the game in this meta, I believe. And Colton certainly brought that. He also has 2 5-man assault intercessors with jump packs. He uses these as just deep strike action monkeys that can then go and punch, skirmish light people in the backfield. Followed by 2 Ballistus Dreadnoughts, just really cheap 2-up armor save Dreadnoughts that can chunk something down with las cannons. 2 3-man Eradicator units. These guys are great. Throw them in outflank. Come on, blow up tanks, blow up monsters. Obviously, Eradicators are always great. 5 Infiltrators for 100 points just to screen out his backfield. And then 2 more 10-man Vanguard Vets with jump packs. And then they had power weapons and storm shields. So again, I think in this meta you want fast moving melee infantry either with jump packs or with coming out of a Rhino. This obviously does not hit as hard as a Sons of Sanguinius detachment, but it's got basically the same kind of flavor. And I think it's actually a really good list. For if you want to play Deathwatch, I think this is a great way to go. And yeah, let's talk about the game. All right, so our mission was take and hold with the slightly offset Hammer and Anvil deployment. And I basically deployed on the line. This is I ended up getting first turn, so this is at the end of my movement for turn 1. And as you can see, Colton basically deployed everyone behind buildings. We've got our new fixed terrain. This is terrain deployment 1. And essentially the way that the tournament did things was day 1, all 3 missions, every table had terrain set up 1, 2, or 4 on it, which should have been compatible with all 3 missions for day 1. Whether that's true or not is, you'll see. But for the most part, it worked out okay. But yeah, you have the same terrain set up on every table, and basically it was just random on if you got 1, 2, or 4 for day 1, and then they changed the terrain around, and day 2 had 1, 6, and 8 for the 3 missions for day 2, and that way the judges only had to rearrange the terrain once over the course of the tournament. And yeah, I think that's an okay way to do it. It does mean that you might get a terrain setup that is not quite as favorable, but GW said it should be favorable. I will say that the terrain setups are slightly different than GW terrain setups. With the Denver Fight Club, they have their own terrain that's just slightly larger than the GW ones, so they had to modify their terrain setups slightly to compensate for that. It works. The terrain is mostly okay. I only had one bad experience with it. It works for the most part. But anyways, this is the deployment and me at the end of my turn 1 movement. I did not have anything to shoot because Colton hit everything. And as you can see, I also took fixed. So I decided to take cleanse and engage because my list has a distinct lack of anything that is good at doing secondaries, it turns out. So the plan for this list for the entire tournament is walk forward with 3 Norns, put them on the objectives that they're supposed to be on, and then cleanse and engage with something and fire a spore mine to engage in the other corner and get engage points. So that's how this list works. Everyone says fixed is absolutely terrible in this edition, or in this new data slate, and maybe it is, but also tactical gives a slightly less points on average than it did in the previous, so I think that makes fixed slightly better. You do 100% have to build your list with the fixed objectives in mind, and obviously your opponent knows what you're doing, so therefore they can try and stop it. But the power of Norns are they become OC 15 and they are very difficult to stop. So yeah, this is me at the end of turn 1. I moved up, I cleansed, I did engage, and passed the turn to Colton. Here is just a slightly different angle. You get to see the end of my turn 1 from Colton's angle, and you can see basically how he deployed his army. You do have the 2 lone op lieutenants in the middle ready to do secondary actions, and then everyone else is ready to just jump forward and do melee. And here we have one final shot of my so just so you can see from my angle what it looks like and everything that's hiding behind buildings for me. So yeah, and then Colton's turn 1, he drew establish locus and recover assets. He began recovering assets with basically he had 1 lieutenant recover assets and 1 lieutenant establish locus, both in the middle. So he got the small establish locus, and basically he just kind of pushed everyone forward slightly, ready to countercharge me for a big turn 2. What that meant, however, is he allowed me to just get a big 15 on primary for my turn 2, and I was able to advance the 3rd Norn up onto the 3rd objective and basically just cleanse and say, I've got the board, you have to come out and do something. And I basically just completely solidified my stranglehold on the board. I did attack, and I was able to shoot and kill one of the lieutenants who was recovering assets, so he actually failed at that mission, and because that one completes at the end of your opponent's turn. And then the parasite of Mortrex charged into his other lieutenant, did nothing, and took a wound for his foolishness, I guess. I don't know. Took a wound for his troubles. And then Colton's turn 2, so he was stuck holding on to recover assets again. He did decide to keep it, and he also drew containment. All right, it is Colton's turn 2. It is go time. I put my entire army in his face and said, come get me, and he said, okay. So yeah, he drew containment. He has basically his 2 rhinos are both doing containment. One rhino's doing containment, and then some assault intercessors that dropped down in the backfield are also doing containment. At the end of my turn 2, he also rapid ingressed 5 assault intercessors in my backfield, and as you can see, those are coming towards my Bilevore now. So that's kind of scary because he's looking to take my home field. And look at that, I have 40 assault marines about to punch me in the face. He's got 20 of them going down at my assimilator, 10 of them going into the Norn on the center, 10 of them going into the Norn at the top left. And both ballistas have moved to be able to shoot at Norns. And then eradicators have also come in from reserve to shoot at Norns. So this is the go turn. Everything is punching me in the face. I think the only thing he kept in reserve are the 3 Inceptors. Yeah. So it's go time. I took a lot of pictures of the action because this is crazy. And it's also thematic. You've got Deathwatch punching Tyranids. So yeah, took lots of pictures of the action. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what happens here. So yeah, here's just another shot of the full, just straight line of tons of dudes about ready to punch me. So the Eradicators shot me. So at the end of shooting, it was literally Ballistus at Norn, Eradicators at Norn, and then frag cannons and grav pistols. All three Norns were put down to 10 wounds before combat started. And then here you go. He charged in, so there's 20 Marines against the Assimilator, 10 Vanguard vets against the Emissary in the center, and 10 Death Watch veterans against the Norn on the top left. I decided to Armor of Contempt against the Eradicators, so instead of interrupting, and then that allows me to Armor of Contempt again against one of the units punching me. Also, the Vanguard vets in the center, they charged into the Parasite as well, and they failed their Battle Shock check. This was huge because he was going to give them Lance for +1 to wound and +1 AP, and now they couldn't because the Parasite said take a Battle Shock at -1 because of Dirge Heart, and they failed. So that meant that the Norn in the center took basically no damage at all. I think he took 4 damage. Because the unit still rerolls, he was the Oath target, so they rerolled all hits against him, and they had lethal hits. But yeah, that meant that he was basically fine, and because of that, I was also able to Armor of Contempt the Norn on the top left. That was only fighting 10 Deathwatch Marines, and because of that, both of those Norn emissaries took almost no damage. I think, one went down to 6 and one went down to 7 when they'd been at 10 from shooting. So that means that both of those squads did basically nothing to me. And I allowed the Norn Assimilator to go down because, again, he was being attacked by 20 Marines, not just 10. And he didn't have the invuln to protect him either. Not that it really mattered. I think he was AP2, so he put me at 4-ups. But the Assimilator did go down, unfortunately, before he could attack any of the Marines, but the other two Norns were at 6 and 7 health, respectively, were able to punch back and take out sizable chunks of both of those Space Marine units. So after doing that, Colton ended up discarding Recover Assets for a CP, and then my turn 3, I got 10 primary. Because he stole my home field, because the 5 Assault Intercessors, they did kill the Biovore and stole my home field, so I only had the center and the top left for 10 primary, but I had a very solid hold there, and then I was able to essentially open fire. My Zoanthropes came in and were able to wipe out all of the Marines in the top left. Exocrine and Norn Assimilator falling back, or Norn Emissary falling back, shooting and charging into the center, allowed me to thin that down to just a couple of guys left. And I had double Maliceptor going after the 20 Marines in the bottom right that had taken out the Assimilator. And the Exocrine was able to take a shot at the 5 guys that had just killed the Biovore. So this is the end of my turn 3 here, where you can see I have both Maliceptors in combat with his Vanguard vet unit, and I was able to shoot and kill all of the Deathwatch veteran units, except for the character who is left alive at 1 wound. Then the beginning of Colton's turn 3, I declared Shadow in the Warp, and I should have killed the chaplain with the grenade strat because he was alive at 1 wound, and then he could tell guys to auto pass in the beginning of any phase. But importantly, he did fail all of his battle shocks because it's at -2 in most places and even -3 in some places with the Parasite. So he failed battle shock pretty much everywhere, lost his home objective, lost the 1 objective on the bottom right that he had, and got 0 primary on that turn. And everyone was battle shocked. And then in terms of secondaries, he drew Cleanse and Defend Stronghold, but because I had just battle shocked his home objective, he ended up ditching. He did not score Defend Stronghold, and For cleanse, basically the chaplain who lived on 1 wound told himself to unbattle shock, and he cleansed the 1 objective for 2 points. And his turn was basically trying to his second unit of eradicators came in my deployment zone and tried to kill my exocrine off my home objective, and his other assault intercessors tried to come and steal it as well. And other than that, the ballistas kept trying to shoot at me, but they were unsuccessful, especially because of Armor of Contempt and CP rerolls on saves against las cannons. He did, I think, 2 damage to me with a crack missile, and that's all that got through. I took very little damage, and the rest of the game was kind of a mop-up from there. The Eradicators were unsuccessful at killing the exocrine. They put it down to 4 wounds. The Assault Intercessors put it down to 1 in combat, and then Death Leaper came and rescued him and killed the exocrine was able to shoot and kill the 3 Eradicators, and Death Leaper was able to finish off the last 3 Assault Intercessors that were in combat. And so I was able to secure my home, and I then spent the next 2 turns killing Ballistas with Norns and Maleceptors and playing cleanup. So, as you can see, I ended up with a 96-point win, with Colton having a 30-point loss. It was really difficult for him. I got turn 1, and I was able to steal all the primary from the game and prevent him from doing most stuff. He had his 1 big go turn to do damage, and he unfortunately only killed 1 Norn and left the other 2 at 6 and 7, giving me a snowball effect where I could really just obliterate him and win the game. So I am now 1-0, and we are moving on to round 2. I am now playing Brian Mayo. He is playing a Space Wolf Stormlance, so a little bit of the Thunderwolf jail. He has Herald Deathwolf, Logan Grimnar in Terminator armor, 2 Wolfguard battle leaders, 1 with the Hunter Instincts enhancement, a Wolf Lord on Thunderwolf who has the Fury of the Storm enhancement. I believe that one of those, probably Hunter's Instincts, allows him to come in a turn earlier from reserve, and then 2 5-man Assault Intercessors, as well as 2 5-man Assault Intercessors with jump packs, a Brutalis Dreadnought, 3 Bolter Inceptors, 5 Infiltrators, again for screening, 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, so a total of 3 big Dreadnoughts with 2 up armor saves, and 12 Thunderwolf Cavalry, of course, joined by the characters. So, yeah, he's a total of 16 Thunderwolves able to run in and put me in Thunderwolf jail if he goes first, and 3 Dreadnoughts to back it up with a bunch of 5-man Intercessor units and some Inceptors to do secondaries or punch as needed. Alright, so once again, this is a picture at the end of turn 1, but we are playing Burden of Trust with the, I believe, the circle in the middle table quarters detachment, or deployment, and once again, I am on terrain setup 1, and I chose Cleanse and Engage as my fixed missions again, because that is really what this list is built to do. Burden of Trust is basically you get 4 points for holding an objective, and then 2 points if you continue to hold the same objective with the same unit every turn, is essentially what it boils down to. And the mission special rules, they all affect battle line stuff. I don't have any battle line in my list, and I don't think they ever came up literally. Round 6 was the only time the mission's secondary rule ever actually applied, so I'll talk about it in that game. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to bring up the mission secondaries. They literally never came up ever. But yeah, Burden of Trust, this is deployment. Again, I did get first turn, and with this deployment type, I was able to put all 3 Norns. I chose the +1 Advance and Charge enhancement for imperative for my first turn, and just ran everyone onto the objectives, got them their 5-up Feel No Pain and their OC 15, and the Lictors basically had deployed far enough center that they could just walk up and cleanse, and fire a spore mine to get engage. So big cleanse, small engage for my turn 1, and just same thing. I told my opponent to come get me. The important thing here being that I was able to escape Thunderwolf jail by just going first. He put the big unit. He put a big unit of Thunderwolf Cav in reserve because they can come in turn 1. And yeah, that's it for turn 1. We just pushed forward, established board control, and meant that he could not lock me in my deployment zone. And this is just a picture to try and show you guys everything that's hiding behind the walls in his deployment zone. Not a lot. He has some infiltrators on the bottom right ruin that you can barely see. I think my Parasite Amortrex went to go attack them, and he killed one guy and then died, and that was really unfortunate. I don't think he's supposed to die to just 5 base Marines, but he did. So that was a bummer. I literally threw my Parasite away turn 1 this game, and I definitely did not need to do that. I was really, obviously hoping to spawn Rippers. It's a fun thing to do, and prevent his infiltrators from being able to do any actions or anything like that, and it did not pan out. But that was my turn 1, and this is Brian's turn 1. So he drew Area Denial and Marked for Death, and then immediately spent a CP to toss Marked for Death and drew Recover Assets. He was able to do the small Recover Assets with just his intercessors. And he, as you can see, his second squad of Thunderwolf Cav did come in from reserve turn 1, 9 inches away from the Norn in the top left. And then everyone pushed forward, and he rolled terribly. His double Redemptors shooting at me, I don't even think did a damage. And his Ballistas shot Meltas at me, and I think got 1 Melta through and did 2 damage. And then he tried to charge the Ballistas, needing a 7-inch charge, rolled a 6, CP rerolled, rolled a 5, and failed. The Thunderwolf Cav at the top left needed an 8-inch charge because the battle leader gave him +1. So they needed an 8-inch charge, failed, CP rerolled, failed, and then the Ballistas needed a 6, failed, and then his other Thunderwolf Cav, they needed a 4, and they rolled a 4, so they barely made it, and only 5 of them got to fight. The other 2 did not get to fight. And yeah, with his shooting doing nothing and then failing 2 of his 3 charges, that was not the turn that he wanted, but he was able to get at least Thunderwolf Cav into combat with my Norn on the center objective. But even then, I was able to just Armor of Contempt it, and I think I'm down to like 11 wounds is what I remember at the end of his turn 1. And yeah, he did not get Area Denial because I just have a Norn literally parked on the center, and Recover Assets, he began the small version. So then end of my turn 2, I was able to basically fall back, shoot and charge with the Norn in the center, which allowed the Zoanthropes to shoot in, and I was able to kill all of the Thunderwolf Cav in the center, leaving just the 2 characters, which are now 2 separate units. And then my Norn Assimilator moved up to be able to charge his assault intercessors, and I moved off the objective, but I moved in such a way where I'd charge, kill them, and then be able to pile back onto the objective. And I forgot that he has a reactive move as Stormlance, so he spent a CP and reactive moved 6 away, making the Norn unable to charge. So now my Norn is not on his objective. So he just shot the Redemptor right there, and it's a 7-inch charge with the Harpoon becomes a 5-inch charge. And my other Norns both charged into the Thunderwolf Cav, the middle one going back in and the top one going in. I was able to kill 4 of the 8 of them with the Exocrine Maleceptor Norn shooting them. And I just kind of left all the Dreadnoughts alone. My 2 Harpoons, I got 1 hit on the Redemptor and 1 wound, and he made his 5-up save. So And then I failed my 5-inch charge. I rolled a 4, so that was unfortunate. I think even with a CP reroll. I think I rolled double 2s, CP rerolled, rolled a 1 and a 3. And so my Norn assimilator was not on the objective, so he did not get his 5-up feel no pain. Thankfully, my Maliceptor was still out OCing him. But yeah. Then we get to Brian's turn 2. So he did fail recover assets for turn 1 because he did the reactive move. But I actually think it was a smart play to make it where I couldn't get on my objective and have a feel no pain. And then he charged in with double Redemptor Dread. And unfortunately, they're only AP2, so I just Armor of Contempted and had a 3-up save against his Super Fists. And they put me down to like 9, I think. Or I guess 8, because they do flat 3 damage. But yeah, they were kind of unsuccessful at killing me. I was also unsuccessful at killing them. But then he was... all of his Thunderwolf Cav died, and... because in ongoing combats, essentially... And he was able to... He fell back with a lot of the characters and charged the Brutalis in. And basically, yeah, it's just a bunch of Dreadnoughts punching me at AP2, and I did Armor of Contempt. The Brutalis in the center, he did a chunk to me, but not a massive one. I think I'm still at like 7 wounds left with that center Norn. And the top left Norn has certainly taken almost no damage at all. The Emissary, or the Assimilator, is definitely hurting in the bottom right, but he's got a Maliceptor helping him out, making those Redemptor Dreads -1 to hit. And yeah, looks like, yeah, the Assimilator has 4 wounds left in this picture. And he's basically just going to be falling back, shooting and charging. With the Maliceptor falling back, and I'm able to shoot and kill the wounded, battle-shocked Redemptor Dread over there. And yeah, he just really cannot kill my 2-up save Norns. He's really struggling with it. And this is the final photo of the game. He did finally kill the 2 Norns in the center and the bottom right, but that is all he was able to kill over the course of the game. Was those a Zoanthrope and Death Leaper and the Parasite that I threw away. So yeah, he finally killed the Norns, but it was definitely way too late. Exocrines, Maliceptors, Zoes was able to clean up the rest of the board, giving me a sizable 90-point win to 31, making me 2-0, although I've gone up against 2 Space Marine lists, so we'll see how I do against not Power Armor. So now I'm 2-0, going up against Robert Moreland. This Robert is a friend of my friend and teammate Colin Kay. He flew up here from Texas and is a pretty good player. He is playing Astra Militarum. So he's got this standard Gaunt's Ghost, Lord Solar Leontis, plus 15 Bulgrin. I think all of that is pretty standard for guard. He also has the Platoon Command Squad, which I guess gives Lord Solar Leontis 24-inch range for his orders, which seems really, really good. And a 10-man infantry squad. So basically, 10-man infantry squad plus the Platoon Command Squad joined with Solar Leontis, and basically just sat on his backfield all game, giving out orders 24 inches, not requiring line of sight. That he gets to give out 4 orders, because the command squad gives out 1 and Lord Solar gives out 3. Then he's got 10 more Catachan Jungle Fighters just to do some actions, and triple Lehman Russ Exterminator. So these are the autocannon Lehman Russes that are strength 9, AP 1, 3 damage, but they're 4 shots with rapid fire 4 and 48-inch range. So as long as they're within 24, they're getting 8 shots at strength 9, AP 1, 3 damage, twin linked, and anything that they shoot, everything else that shoots them gets +1 AP. That's really important because he also has a Storm Sword. This is one of the Baneblade variants, and I believe it is the most expensive one at 495 points, but this thing is a beast. It has so its main gun is D6 plus 6 shots at strength 16, AP 4, ignore cover, blast, D6 plus 2 damage. That means that it kills anything that it shoots, basically. Are you a high toughness, high wound model? He's wounding you on 3s, ignoring cover, AP4. So if you don't have an invuln, you're going to be a 6-up at best. And D6 plus 2 damage. But it's also D6 plus 6 shots with blast. So if you're like a Terminator squad or something, you're also just dead. Especially because anything that it shoots and everything within 3 inches of what it shoots takes D3 mortals on a 5-up. That's pretty good. And that's just the main gun. It also has 4 las cannons. It also has 7 twin-linked heavy bolters. That's crazy with all of it. And then basically it gets the order from Lord Solar to hit on 3s. All of the heavy bolters become AP2 because of the Lehman Russ Exterminator shooting the target that the heavy bolters want to go at. And that's 21 twin-linked heavy bolter shots that are now 522 twin-linked hitting on 3s. Seems really good. And then he's got a Calidus for the Vect Aura and someone to just go up-down alongside Gaunt's Ghosts to be able to do any secondary he wants. And of course the 15 Bulgrin to just form the wall in the big old meat wall in front of all of his tanks, saying you gotta chew through this. And Bulgrin are a ridiculous profile for anyone to try and chew through. Toughness 6, so small arms fire doesn't work against them. 4-up invuln, so big armed profiles don't work against them. -1 damage, so any 2 or 3 damage weapons don't really work against them because they have 3 wounds. And a 6-up feel no pain just to skew the math a little bit further. Bulgrin are crazy tanky. And they also hit pretty hard in combat, and they can be ordered fixed bayonets, so they hit on 2s with 4 attacks each at 7-1-2. That's not that's nothing to scoff at. They hit pretty hard and they're ridiculously durable. And they move 6 inches and can be ordered move to move 9. So that they also can move pretty fast. Bulgrin just seem insane. I mean, guard, that's pretty standard in a guard list, but I don't see a lot of guard lists. So finally encountering the Bulgrin for the first time and realizing just how insane they are. The list is really good. Obviously, if the Storm Sword dies, the list kind of flounders. But that's why he's got an Engine Seer, gives it a 4-up invuln, can repair it 3 wounds every turn. Seems pretty good to me. All right, so round 3. We are playing Scorched Earth with diagonal deployment from the corner to the middle, and I ended up with terrain layout 4. Now, this is the picture I took of deployment. Robert also has redeploy 3 units. Also, I don't know what happened to my Tabletop Battles app in this game. It completely glitched out, so I couldn't put any of the primary score in. The score on the Tabletop Battles app, this is not correct at all. But I've got it here to show that we did Scorched Earth and what secondaries we drew. But yeah, it was glitching out, and we basically had to use his phone in order to score. I don't know what was wrong with it. I restarted the app multiple times. It didn't work, and then it worked for every other game. So I'm not sure what happened there. But yeah, so sorry, the score on the left is not correct. But yeah, this is terrain layout 4. And so this is my first time and only time playing in this layout. And I have to say, at least with a diagonal deployment, it leaves a lot to be desired. I'm now going up against a gunline list. I'd been going up against melee armies and I was doing fine. This is now a gunline list, and I was looking at the objectives, and I don't see where I can sit on any of these objectives and not be shot by his entire army. So I decide to abandon my plan and go tactical instead of fixed. I then notice like during turn 1, I noticed the bottom right objective is incorrectly placed and it's a little too far towards his deployment zone. It goes about 6 inches to the left. So that bottom right objective moves about 6 inches to the left to where it's in the corner of that ruin. But also, if you notice, every single L is open facing his deployment zone. So I'm not really sure how that happened, but essentially at this point, after we finished deploying, I looked at the board and I'm like, hey man, can we double check the terrain? Because this just doesn't feel right, that I literally can't hide anywhere. Like where I'm at is the only spots I can hide. As soon as I move out of my deployment zone anywhere, your entire army can shoot me from any position. So we did double check the terrain. We looked at all of the footprints and they were correct. What I did not think about until like halfway through turn 3 is that most of these L's are actually backwards. So either the top left or bottom right objective, one of those L's is supposed to be facing the other way because both of them have an opening towards Robert's deployment zone. So one of those is definitely supposed to be facing the other way. I don't know which one, but one of them. And the center 2 objectives with the ruin walls with the crates there, just to the left and right of the center objective. So the L is supposed to be flipped where the crate is on the outside and the wall is on the inside, making it where you have a lot more spot to hide and not just, oh, let me go hide in this L, except I'm inside and you can just see me because I'm now in the terrain and there's just a crate blocking me. So yeah, that makes this game kind of really weird. But anyways, let's get on. So I said there was one game where the terrain really was not good, and that was this game. I don't blame Robert at all. I don't think there was anything malicious going on here. The terrain was just bad. Whoever set it up, which great judges, the event was great, but this is a new terrain format for everyone, and whoever set up this table unfortunately did it incorrectly. So yeah, and unfortunately I just didn't realize the ruin thing until halfway through the game, and obviously by then it's too late to suddenly swap the terrain around. So yeah, now we know for next time, new format, new terrain, we'll get it figured out. But anyways, as you can see, this is how we did deployment, and I did Neurolictor infiltrating on the bottom right, Death Leaper infiltrating on top left, and then everyone is just hiding where they can behind buildings. And I outflanked the Assimilator, hoping that I would be able to go for a 6-inch charge into the Storm Sword, because that was the only way I'm going to be able to kill that thing. It is toughness 13 with a 2 of armor save, so I really need to be AP 3 in melee where it doesn't get cover, and strength 13 because it is toughness 13. I didn't go so far as to declare it as the target for full rerolls to hit and wound for the Assimilator. I thought about it, but he has enough things to screen me out that if I went all in on that plan and it didn't work out, then it would be really bad. So I still declared it as the bottom right objective was the Assimilator's target. In case he screened out with the Shadow Sword, I could go on the other side and not be too upset about it. So yeah, Robert got first turn, and that worked out okay for me because this is the one turn where I actually could hide with things, and basically he was able to push forward and have the Leman Russ on the bottom right here push forward and shoot at the Neurolictor. He put it down to 2 wounds because of stealth and the 4-up invuln, and then he had to charge it with the Bulgrin. Okay, and looks like I did not take too many pictures of this game. I'm sorry, guys. But I took a picture of this here. This is Robert's turn 2. So essentially my turn 1, I just pushed up with everything. I took some shots and I was barely able to kill his Leman Russ that had moved to the center objective, basically with shooting my entire army into it and then charging a Norn into it. I was able to just barely, literally to the last wound, kill that center Leman Russ. And then this picture here is this Maliceptor had an exocrine literally right behind him, touching up against him. And the two of them shot at the Bulgrin that had killed the Neurolictor. That was the advantage to the Neurolictor surviving the shooting from the Leman Russ, was the Bulgrin had to charge, which allowed me to shoot the Bulgrin with the exocrine and Maliceptor. And as you can see, there are still 3 Bulgrin left, so I only killed 3 of them. Again, their defenses are insane. Normally, exocrine Maliceptors love elite infantry, but with the 4-up invuln and the -1 damage with 3 wounds and a 6-up feel no pain, they are crazy tanky. So, and T6, so I'm wounding them on 3s, even with the strength 10. Yeah, so I only killed 3 of them, and then charged the Maliceptor in to try and do some more damage. Took a few wounds in return. But this picture here, the reason I took this is this Leman Russ came up, fired its 4 Meltas into the exocrine and everything else into the Maliceptor, and it was the Leman Russ is within 6 of the Maliceptor, so it's -1 to hit. It was outside of the 24 inches of Lord Solar, so he is hitting on 5s, and his 4 multi-melta shots rolled 3 6s and a 5, and the new change to guard is tanks get lethals against monsters and tanks. So that was 3 lethal hits plus a 5 to hit, which is what he needed, and then he rolled a 5 to wound, which is what he needed, and obviously I had no cover because he was right in front of me. So punched straight through my armor and just one-shot the exocrine with 2 multi-melta sponsons that were hitting on 5s. So that was pretty crazy. The shooting into the Maliceptor did 2 wounds, it looks like, so not very much. And meanwhile, the Storm Sword shot and blew apart the Norn on the center objective. And that was his turn 2. As you can see, for secondaries, again, primary was not scoring correctly. Secondary was mostly scoring correctly. He had established locus, recover assets, was able to get that really easily with Bulgrin and Gaunt's Ghosts. Then he got defend, stronghold, and engage. Engage super easy when you have a Calidus and Gaunt's Ghost being able to uppy downy every turn. And I had drawn behind enemy lines, which I was able to get with a Spore Mine turn 1, and establish locus I was not able to get because basically the only thing that could get towards the center was a Norn and Maliceptor that were busy trying to kill the Leman Russ in the center, so they did not do the action. Actually, I did have the Parasitum Mortrex flew into the center to do establish locus, and he overwatched it with the Leman Russ that was there and rolled 3 6s on his multi-meltas and popped the just popped the Norn in Overwatch, or the Parasite in Overwatch. So I was unable to get established locus. All right, and then we get on to so this is still Robert's turn 2 because I still have a Norn in the center. But yeah, basically now you can actually see what the whole board looks like. I pushed forward the Zoanthropes to the edge of the building. They didn't peek through yet where all those Bulgrin are. They weren't fast enough. Again, I had to hide up there. Anywhere else, the Zoanthropes could have been shot, and their 5-inch move is really hurting them. But they need to kill all of those Bulgrin because those are preventing the Assimilator from outflanking and be able to kill the Storm Sword. So, yeah, as you can see, again, I killed the Leman Russ in the center. He's about to pop the Norn in the center there with the Storm Sword. And that is Robert's turn 2. Okay, wow, I really did not take pictures of this game. This is looking like around turn 4. So, sorry guys. But basically what ended up happening is I had a Maliceptor, a Norn, and the 6 Zoes, and Neurotyrant had 1 chance on turn 2 to shoot and kill all 6 Bulgrin. 6 Zoanthropes and the Neurotyrant normally pick up anything they shoot at, but with the -1 damage, the D3 blast profile becomes really bad, and I didn't want to fire 6 lance shots because he has a 4-up invuln. Either way, regardless of profile, the Zoanthropes on average kill 1 Bulgrin. And the Flamer going from 622 to 621 when they have a 4-up invuln and RT6 did a wound. So the entire squad actually even rolled below average, and I did 2 wounds total with 6 Zoanthropes and a Neurotyrant firing into Bulgrin, hitting on 2s. Dice just do that sometimes, and that, again, just the profile is really, really bad for that unit. The Maleceptor shot in and I think killed 1, and the Norn shot in and killed 1, and then charged in and killed 1. So there were still 3 left, unfortunately, which meant the Assimilator could not come in on my turn 3, so instead I Rapid Ingressed turn 3 behind the crate that you see on the far center right, which was in Robert's deployment zone, but it being turn 3, I was able to come in his deployment zone, and then basically on his turn 3, he shot the Storm Sword and killed the Norn in the top left, and my turn 3, the Norn Assimilator, I spent a CP to give him the +1 advance and charge enhancement because he moved 10 towards the Lehman Russ on the bottom right. And unfortunately, the way that the walls worked, I had a 5-inch charge that turned into a 9-inch charge because that stupid wall, I couldn't fit my base there and I can't stand on a wall. So my 5-inch charge became a 9-inch charge, so that way the back of my base could clear the wall there. But thankfully, with the imperative for +1 to charge and then using the harpoons for another +2 to charge, that 10-inch charge was a 7, which I failed, but then with a CP reroll, I rolled a 11 and moved 14 inches to charge that Lehman Russ, punch it. I didn't quite kill it, but I put it down to 7, and it decided to stay in combat with me, and then I was able to kill it on his turn 4. Oh, and the other thing I was able to do was I charged the Zoanthropes into the Baneblade to tie it up because its giant weapon is Blast, and it doesn't have an ability to fall back and shoot. And I also Battle Shocked it with Shadow in the Warp, which does prevent it from getting orders, so it was hitting on 5s. So when I had the final Norn Emissary that it was shooting, it was hitting on 5s, and I had cover, but the big gun ignores cover, but I had cover, not that it mattered. It was hitting on 5s. I had a 4-up invuln, I had Armor of Contempt, and I had a CP to reroll the invulnerable save, and it still one-shot me. So there's not really anything I can do there. I literally did everything possible to try and survive. It still one-shot me, and that's a Norn. So if it can do that, then there's just kind of nothing I can do there. But yeah, I killed the Lehman Russ in the bottom right, and that Norn Assimilator ends up basically taking that objective away from the 10 Catachan Guard. And but unfortunately, with a Calidus going up, down, funny point, the Biovore actually manages to kill the Calidus this game because he keeps going up, down, and doing actions in my deployment zone, and the Biovore can just see it. So turn 3, it shoots the Calidus and does 2 dev wounds. Turn 4, it shoots the Calidus and does 2 dev wounds and kills it. I've never had the Biovore do that before. It was really funny. Other funny thing in this game was during my turn 4, or Robert's turn 4, when I declared Shadows, the Lehman Russ in the center was down to 5 wounds. It failed the Battle Shock. I used the strat, rolled 6 3-ups to do 6 mortals, killed the Lehman Russ in the center. And the Engine Seer by the Baneblade also failed morale, and since the Zoanthropes were right there in combat with the Baneblade, he took D3 mortals from the Neurothrope. I rolled a 5, killed the Engine Seer because he only has 3 wounds. And I did manage to eventually chew through all 15 Bulgrin and all 3 Lehman Russes and all of his other stuff, other than all he had left was the Lord Solar Command Squad and the Storm Sword, but that's all he needed. And yeah, the final score of the game was 84 to 54, I believe, in Robert's favor. Unfortunately, I just could not score secondaries for anything. Another thing that happened in the game, so after he had overwatched and killed the Parasite Amortrex, the next turn he overwatched and once again rolled 3 6s on his Meltas, and I failed 2 of them, and he killed my Maliceptor in Overwatch, sure, with Meltas. Getting lethal hits against monsters all the time, not just when you're standing still, is really good for guard. Especially, yeah, it's just really good. So props to Robert. He did go on all the way into the finals and then ended up losing in the finals. So he went 5-1 and got 3rd place. Props to him. It is a really good list. The Storm Sword is awesome. And it counters Norns really hard, because the whole point of my list is to be ridiculously durable, and the Storm Sword just one-shots them all the time, apparently. So, good job, Robert. So I am now 2-1. All right, I think I'm going to end this video here. This is going to be just a day 1 video because this is already an hour long. And I will create a second video for day 2. But yeah, we finished day 1, 2-1, having taken out 2 Space Marine Power Armor players, and then losing to a Baneblade. So I'm actually okay with that. I don't think I'm going to run into too many Baneblades, so having that be the weakness of the list is fine, and Robert is a very skillful player. So not too upset with that being a loss there. And yeah, let's see what happens on day 2. Thank you guys for watching. I'll get working on the next video now.